So, by the way, Franz Josef, the guy that you mentioned, I think he had the most magnificent beard and mustache in human history.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is renowned for that.
Like if he would have lived today, I think he would win like the best mustache competition. Maybe eating some
Yeah, actually,
sausage.
there are many Franz Josef lookalikes or wannabes, that grow their mustache exactly like he had. Um, but they are not emperors, so that's the only difference.
There was only one Franz Josef.
Yeah, unfortunately, he finished his career not in the best way, right? Because he died during the First World War after his nephew, so Franz Ferdinand, got assassinated, and his son committed suicide. So quite a sad ending for this ruler. But one thing that he did do, he's the one who actually took down the walls of the fortifications of the city. So he turned Vienna from a city of about 150,000 to a city of around 2 million.
Wow.
In about 20 years. So that's quite an amazing thing that you can still see the remains of his actions to this day. And that's quite nice.
Thank you, Franz Josef, for making
Thank
Vienna
you,
great
Franz
again.
Josef.
Okay, so
Nice.
we talked about music. We talked about going to the opera, and you recommended both the places. One, the State Opera, which is probably more like the formal, the formal place that this is and the other alternative, and that's great. Now, I want to focus on something that is very important in every journey: food. Okay, so you said before that the Viennese cuisine or the Austrian cuisine is not one of the world's renowned cuisines, but still, I'm sure that you can find great food in Vienna. Do you have any recommendations for a great bite there?
Yes, absolutely. So in Vienna, if you are a foodie or a culinary lover, I would visit Vienna mainly for the desserts, to be honest. So there are nice dishes. Of course, everybody knows the schnitzel, first of all. So when it comes to dishes, actually one of the traditional Viennese dishes, it's called Tapfelspitz. It has equally Viennese name. It's basically a stew, a meat stew, that was one of Franz Josef's favorite dishes, and you can find it in very traditional restaurants. It's great for the winter, so it's quite nice. But the schnitzel is what is known in Vienna, even though it's disputed where it actually came from. So it's not clear if it's exactly Viennese. Some say it's from Milano, some say it's from Hungary or other places. So, Vienna was just the first to brand it as Wiener Schnitzel. So I guess whoever brands it first gets the title. But when it comes to desserts, that's when Vienna is really worth it. It starts from the well-known desserts, like you said, the Apfelstrudel or the Sachertorte. And the Sachertorte, some people absolutely love. Other people say that it's a cake that might choke you. So it really depends on your taste, but I think it's still worth a try. There are two main places where you can try it. One is Café Demel, which is next to Michaelerplatz in front of Hofburg Palace. And the other one is Sacher Hotel and Sacher Café, named after Franz Sacher, the person who invented the cake. There was actually a legal dispute for years between these two places who can name the cake the original Sachertorte. One claimed that it was invented there, the Café Demel, because that's where the intern, Franz Sacher, he basically made a cake when the head chef was sick and he needed to make something quick, so he just made this cake. But then his family that established the hotel and the cafe, they wanted the title because it was their father. But eventually, Demel is the original. So, but it's still a dispute. It's beautiful when the biggest problems you have is that you dispute a cake, So
That story sounds like from a Wes Anderson movie, like the Grand Budapest Hotel, but all of the scenery is supposed to be somewhere in an imaginary empire, but it's supposed to resemble to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And I don't know if you remember that movie, but there is a scene there that the bellboy, the main character, not main, secondary character, he falls in love with a cake baker, and she works in a place that is very famous for its cakes and sweets. So I guess that also that comes from there, that the Austrians are very known for their cakes and sweets. For the viewers and listeners, you probably know it, but in Jerusalem there is a very famous place that is called the Austrian Hospice. And for
Oh,
many,
absolutely.
yeah, and for many years, the thing to do there was to go there and to drink coffee and
And eat a
eat
strudel.
a strudel. Yeah, so the strudel and all of that. So,
So, and
do you
you know who makes the strudel there? The people
who
who make the strudel there
Arabs?
are Austrian, but also
Ah,
the Austrians that are working there are Austrian
yeah,
soldiers from the Austrian army.
really?
Yeah, the interesting thing is in Austria you have mandatory military service, and actually they can also be sent to places like the Jerusalem hospice. There are soldiers who work there, and yeah, also in the kitchen. When I was in Jerusalem a few years ago, I went to the hospice, of course, to eat Apfelstrudel, and we talked a bit in German with the kitchen there. And yeah, they were young Austrian soldiers. So it's quite funny and a great experience and an amazing view on all of Jerusalem.
When you talked at the beginning of life quality, so it's a country that if you go and, I mean, you have to enlist to the army and then you need to go somewhere abroad and make great apple strudels.
Absolutely. Luckily, Austria is a neutral country since its independence. So even though you do have to enlist in the military, it's not that dangerous. It's quite fine. And it has also a benefit for the character building of the young men. Women don't have to go, and also there is a choice between the military and also social service,
Hmm.
like civil service, so they can volunteer and work in non-profit organizations, hospitals, or yeah, other options. So that's at least something nice. I think that, in my opinion, every country should have some civil service for people to volunteer. Builds a good character. One small thing, if we go back to the sweets, there is another dessert that is worth mentioning. It was the favorite dessert of Sisi, or at least one of the favorite desserts of Sisi, the princess, the wife of Franz Joseph. It's called the Kaiserschmarrn. Kaiserschmarrn. It's essentially a pancake that is just cut down to pieces, and you eat it normally with powdered sugar on top and also some jam on the side. It's something worth trying, and you can share it because it comes normally in a big plate. And it has an interesting story. It's not exactly clear where it came from, but there is one story that says that Franz Josef and his wife Sisi were hiking in the mountains in some area, and they got hungry, and they spotted a hut of a villager, and they just said, "Okay, we'll just eat there." And they entered his home, and he, of course, offered to serve them, but he had nothing at home, so he just made something up with the ingredients he had, and he decided to make a pancake, but his hands were so shaky from the nervousness that he just cut the pancake into pieces when he tried to serve it. And then he, just to save the situation, he just added some sugar, and he said, "Ah, this is a dish." And basically, Kaiser is from the emperor, and
Right?
Schmarrn literally means mess.
Mess. Yeah.
So mess.
It sounds like another Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, that's the stories we have here for our. Every sweet has a story.
That's
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 the beauty.
great. So we are not far from Christmas. I'm sure there are some interesting Christmas markets all around Vienna.
Absolutely.
Can you recommend one or two?
It's tough to choose one or two. Vienna is renowned for the Christmas markets. Of course, in Europe you'll find beautiful ones everywhere, but the main Christmas market in Vienna is ranked among the top of the most beautiful ones, and it's located right in front of the Rathaus or the city hall. It's quite large, and you will find there not only food, but also artists that sell their art. You have also some playgrounds for children. You also have ice skating, that is like open air ice skating. They build a whole ice skating area, and you will see, hundreds of people just ice skating in circles, but it's quite beautiful. But you have a lot of large Christmas markets. So you have the Schönbrunn Christmas market, which is beautiful. And you also have one in the Prater, the amusement park. The Prater is not working in the winter, but the Christmas market is definitely worth a visit. In general, you put the Prater on your itinerary because it's quite an amazing place. It's the third oldest amusement park in the world. And in the past, the Ferris wheel there used to be the largest Ferris wheel in the world for a very short period of time. Vienna always, whenever there is something they can be first at some point, they immediately mention that. But unfortunately, as the world develops and Vienna stays the same, many titles are lost, but it's okay.
Well, it's not
But
unfortunate.
also,
It's not
yeah,
unfortunate, I think,
it's out.
because you still have the charm, I guess.
It definitely has the charm, and many people go to visit the Ferris wheel, and also they are very old, of course, well functioning but old rides that are worth trying. There is also the Madame Tussauds Museum there and the Chocolate Museum. So yeah, there are enough things to do. But when it comes again to Christmas markets, there are also a lot of small Christmas markets in the old town that are definitely worth visiting, and each one has a slightly different character. There are some Christmas markets that are more known for the local artists that are there, like the one in Amhof, which is very close to Judenplatz, the Jewish square. And then you have ones that are more traditional, like the one in Freyung. Freyung is a neighborhood in the old town, and that's actually where the first ever Christmas market in Vienna took place. So it's still taking place in the same shape since then, since around the time of Maria Theresa, I would say. That's when the Christmas market in Vienna actually started. So it's a very old tradition. Not in the same form, but very similar. So that's another place you should visit. And the beauty is that in a very easy walk in the old town, you can see 5 to 6 Christmas markets. There is the one in
That's awesome.
Stephansdom, like next to the cathedral. There is a Maria Theresenplatz. And so if you look at the map when you plan your visit, you'll be able to walk between Christmas markets and see a lot, and then see the different characteristics of each one. So it will not be too repetitive. You can do that, and I definitely recommend it.
So let's talk a little bit about your company. So you started Secret Vienna, and what kind of tools do you offer there?
Yeah. So Secret Vienna actually started as a blog, not as a company. Originally, the idea was simply to enrich the lives of people, whether they are locals or whether they are foreigners who live in Vienna. Back then, it was around 2016. There weren't many blogs in English in Vienna. There was enough in German, but not enough in English. And so we just wanted to understand what is the meaning behind the statue that we often saw on the way to work, or this house, who lived there, and why is it so special. So this is how it started, and it grew slowly to a large community. And after around, I would say, 10,000 followers, we said, okay, we have here something, so let's offer tours. And our concept was, we wanted tours that a local who was born and lived in Vienna all his life, and a visitor who comes for the first time, can take the same experience, book the same tour, and equally enjoy it. That was the goal. You are Viennese, you have a friend from the US coming to visit. Normally, you would have to compromise and go to a place that you've been to a million times. So for you, it's boring. Well, for the visitor, it's fun. With our tours, the goal was really that both will enjoy. And so we started with tours like Vienna behind the scenes, or the dark side of Vienna, or Vienna's secret societies. So these are themed tours that are a little bit more in depth and really explore specific topics. And we slowly increased it. Now we have around 50 different types of tours in Vienna,
Wow.
and also in each district. And you will find a lot of topics from espionage and spying to criminal cases and executions, to powerful women of Vienna, to medieval times, to modern times. Yeah, we really focused on depth because every city has so much to offer, but often tourism companies sometimes tend to remain on the surface because, of course, for the visitors, the surface might be enough. But for our model, we had to dig a little bit deeper to surprise the Viennese as well.
So that's interesting. So basically, in your company, I mean, if I go on a tour with you with Secret Vienna, so I can meet local people, Viennese people.
Often you will meet local people, definitely. For the most important local person that you will meet is, of course, the guide, right? So
Right.
we also choose the guides very carefully. The guides that we work with have deep passion about the city and love exploring it, and you will see it with enthusiasm when they speak. And then, yeah, of course, you will meet a lot of locals. It really depends. Some tours are interesting for very specific groups of people.
Right.
You might see sometimes families, well, sometimes you will see young people, well, sometimes you will see older people. Everybody is, of course, welcome, but with themed tours, not everybody is interested in everything. But the one thing in common for our customers is that they're very interested and even passionate about history because the tours really go deep.
So now we come to the bucket list. Uh, I don't know, the bucket list.
Mm, sounds good.
So yeah, the bucket list section, let's call it that way. So I'm just going to ask you about places that you recommend. You don't need to say like exactly why, but I'll just go into shoot it, and
Was that?
whatever comes to your mind, just spit it out. So let's start with the five best bars in Vienna.
My favorite, actually, cocktail bar will be a place called The Sign. The Sign. It's not in the center, not in the old town. If I'm not mistaken, it's in the ninth district or the second district. It's a great place. The mixer there, the mixologist, the person who makes the drinks, he's quite renowned. He won some competitions. He makes very creative stuff. So that's great. Another place that is really cool is a place called Jazzland, which is
Jazzland.
a bar that specializes in jazz music. So there are live music performances. I often like bars that have this added value, not just go and sit and drink, but also have performances. So that's usually where I will go. One of my most recommended places I recommend to everyone, and it's a place where you can meet locals, make friends, and also enjoy great atmosphere. It's a place called Frau Meyer. Frau Meyer, it's not that well known for tourists, actually. It's located in the old town, and it's a place that every evening you have artists coming there to perform for free. Sometimes they can be famous, sometimes they can be in the very first day of performing, but the atmosphere is so great that you will enjoy it. Doesn't matter. You might start singing too, and they welcome everybody who knows how to play something. People sing together often. Yeah. And in general, I would recommend the last thing, go to the seventh district and just walk around. You will not go wrong. There are many nice places to go to. Just feel spontaneous, enter a place. I'm sure you will like it.
Do you have any recommendations for hotels, like best hotels that you recommend staying in?
Yeah, here it really depends what you love. So Vienna has um, different types of hotels. You have small boutique hotels that are a bit more traditional. In that category, one hotel I really like is a hotel called Das Tigra. It's a hotel located in a neighborhood called Freyung. I mentioned it with the Christmas markets. Freyung is my favorite neighborhood in the old town. It's beautiful. It's very authentic. It's a lot of remains from medieval times, or at least feeling from medieval times. And the hotel is really, really nice. It's well rated, great service, small rooms, and perfect location. All the things that are important. If you want larger but still fancy hotels that give you this Viennese vibe,
Yeah.
here you have a lot of options. So you have hotels like Grand Hotel Wien or Hotel Bristol or Hotel Imperial. Hotel Imperial is great, but also it's where Hitler lived
Oh, shoot.
When Austria was annexed to Germany in the Anschluss. And Hitler entered. He just kicked everybody out from the Hotel Imperial and stayed there for a while. So, but it's one of the fanciest hotels in Vienna.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and if you want a bit more modern, you can go with one of the bigger chains like Le Méridien, for example, just because the location is so great. I recommend one thing to consider: choose a hotel that is not in the old town. I recommend choosing a hotel in one of the other districts. You will be able to experience the Viennese life. And because Vienna is so accessible, as long as you're staying next to a metro station, you'll be able to get to the old town in 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes maximum. But it will open your perspective, because if you are just staying in the old town, you will not have a reason to go to the other districts, maybe the seventh, like I mentioned. But
Right.
so you will only see a very limited side of Vienna. I recommend
That's a
just
really
find a
good
hotel
tip.
next to a metro station. Again, you can't go wrong. I think that the hotels here have high standards. Most of the hotels I know are always receiving positive reviews, unless, of course, a personal case happened. But in general, they're well maintained. The regulations here are very tough. Hotels cannot just neglect things.
Awesome. And what about hostels for people who prefer, better, like a lower cost option?
The one hostel that I know, it's called the Wombats Hostel, if I'm not mistaken. It's located next to Naschmarkt, the main market in Vienna, and it's great. I think that for everybody who is either on a lower budget, even though I think that hostels in Vienna might not be that cheap. Of course, they can be slightly cheaper than hotels, but I think if you compare it to, let's say, Airbnb, I'm not so sure. It's worth checking. But the vibe in a hostel is, of course, it's great and great place to meet people. But you can, of course, meet people also in bars and pubs. So it depends on your attitude. If you're open-minded, you'll meet people anywhere. And if you are not, then maybe a hostel might not be helpful either. So.
Okay, last question for the bucket list section. Just if you can tell us like your favorite restaurants, or maybe like I don't know, 3 or 4 of them.
Mm, okay. Um, that's a good question. So it really depends. I do like the Austrian traditional restaurants, kind of. So one of the restaurants I love the most in the old town, it's called Offenloch. Loch can be like a opening or a mouth, and offen is open. It's a great place. It's in an alley that leads to Judenplatz, to the Jewish square. The restaurant is traditional, but very well loved by the Viennese people, which is always a good sign. And when you go there, you can also ask them if they can show you the cellar downstairs, because they have, if I'm not mistaken, several floors underground where they store their wine. That's actually one thing
Nice.
that many people don't know about Vienna. But Vienna has a complete underground city with many floors underground. In the past, people used to walk around underground from one place to the other, connected by tunnels. And there are buildings in the old city that have up to 6 floors underground. So it's quite
What?
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
And you
were
can visit
blocked.
these places?
Some of them, yeah, on our tours, for example. But there are places that use them as wine cellars. So if you go to places that specialize in wine, they might have wine testing in their cellars. Other buildings or shops might use it for storage spaces, or sometimes even they offer workshops in the underground cellars. In the past, there used to be tunnels that connect them, but they were blocked by the Nazis so that people don't just walk around. And you can still see the barricaded walls that separate buildings. Anyway, coming back to the restaurants. So Offenhof
Yes.
was one of the best, in my opinion. You have traditional restaurants like Plachuta or Figelmüller. These are slightly more touristic, but you will find their traditional dishes. Like in Plachuta, you will find the Tapfelspitz, the dish I mentioned before is one of the traditional Viennese dishes. So that's great. If you want Italian, our neighbors, but you want just something else, you had enough of the schnitzel. Restaurants like the Capo or Fabio's could be relevant. And if you want French, you can go with Tuya. Or if you want Japanese, you can go with or Asian, you can go with Tien. That's also vegetarian for those who want that. And if you want vegetarian or vegan options, you also have, beside regular restaurants like Holerai, for example, a great vegetarian restaurant, you have also fast food chain called Swing Kitchen. And they have vegan, vegetarian burgers, and it's really great and quite affordable. So there are enough solutions for Vienna for vegetarians or vegans, even though the city loves meat. So
All right, Sagi, thank you so much. This was really an absolute pleasure. I know that
mine
as
too.
a person who only knew about like Mozart and Vienna and Franz Josef, really you expanded my borders about like my knowledge of this
With
place.
pleasure. Now all that's
How
left for you is to actually visit.
exactly, and that comes to my next question: how people can reach out to you or to your company?
Well, first of all, through our website, that's the easiest. So Secret Vienna, and it's secretvienna.org because we used to be a blog and we kept it as our heritage. And beside that, you can reach us on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp. We are very accessible and happy to answer anything. Even if you don't intend to book and you just have questions or need advice, we are always very happy to help out. And yeah, you will find that Vienna though is very easy. So when you plan to come, don't get nervous, and you can even be a little bit spontaneous because everything is so nearby and so easily accessible that yeah, you'll be able to explore. And just be careful, very important, because once you visit Vienna, you might not want to leave. That's what happened to me. So
Thank you so much,
yeah,
Sagi, and see you in Vienna.
with pleasure. See you there.